Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Today was a great day in the markets, and we're going to go over some of our biggest winners in this live and talk about some assets that perhaps we missed out on, but I'll give you my take on them anyway. So without further ado, let's get started. So, as always, this is not financial advice, so make sure to do your own due diligence before making any investment decisions. So, the first stock that we're going to talk about is Nvidia, and it keeps rising. And I continuously get questions about, hey, is it too high right now? Is it too rich of a valuation? Have I missed it? Well, I'll tell you my personal story with Nvidia. I was invested in it. I sold it early. And the reason why I sold was because it had too much exposure to Taiwan for my comfort and uh, the potential for a conflict between China and Taiwan was going to cause me to lose sleep at night if I had a big position in NVIDIA. And if I had it recommended for PIF members, then this would be sort of added psychological pressure for me. So I ended up taking it out of our PIF portfolios, which follow my personal portfolio. So that said, I do think that there is a lot of merit to NVIDIA still, even after having gained 41% since the start of just this year, and we're only in February, and more than 200% over the past 12 months. It actually increased or tripled its revenue year over year, and uh, as it's, I'm sure, no secret to anyone, the adoption of AI is accelerating, and NVIDIA provides the fuel for this adoption to its processors, which basically are rivaled by none. They're sort of in a league on their own, and that's why they have margins that are gross margins in the 80% range. This is really indicative of a product with extreme distinction from other competitors. So, given this, and I ran the numbers today, I think the company is reasonably priced. Obviously, if two conditions are met, the growth expectations need to be met, and the margins need to remain what they are. Now, in terms of the growth of the AI sector and the demand for AI, I have no doubts about that. The question for NVIDIA is whether any competition will arise that decreases its margins. So, if competition rears its head or is anticipated to be coming soon, that can actually challenge NVIDIA's number one spot in this space, then I think there's a lot of room to fall for this particular stock. So I rate it as a hold. I don't think necessarily its valuation is unreasonable, but it is risky to be buying at these prices. And just to sort of give you a visualization of how much NVIDIA has appreciated in recent history, I mean, this is a nice looking chart for any investor. So the next stock on our list is Enphase. This is a company that we actually do have in our PIF portfolio, and it reported earnings yesterday, and there was a pretty positive reaction from the market, even though they reported a miss for revenue and a miss for income. And I think the key statement that came out from the earnings was the CEO saying, we think Q1 could be the bottom quarter. Europe is already showing early signs of recovery, and we expect the non-California states to bounce back quickly. This is the key, I think, that actually caused the pop in price that Enphase experienced. Keep in mind, investors know that this solar industry is quite cyclical. It's quite tied closely to the economic cycle. When interest rates go up, these types of companies will feel it because a lot of their product, and Enphase makes solar energy solutions, so microinverters and solar batteries and software that controls the entire system. So they're in the solar residential and commercial installation business. And a lot of times these installations happen on credit. And so they're very sensitive to demand for them is very sensitive to the level of interest rates. And so their business tends to be cyclical, right? And follows the broader economic cycle. And I think investors were waiting for, okay, when are we at the trough? When are we at the bottom? The CEO of Enphase has a lot of credibility. I think he typically under promises and over delivers. And so coming from the CEO, this type of statement holds a lot of weight for investors. And you saw the reaction from the stock price. And that was quite positive today. I also think that there was an element of shorts being burned because Enphase is a shorted stock. Short interest currently is close to 7-8%, so it's not trivial. And therefore, I think a lot of shorts got burned between yesterday and today, and that caused the spike to be even higher than it normally would be. They also reported expanding product catalog across expanding geographical footprint. If you zoom out a bit, revenue and earnings. So if we try and zoom out away from the cycle that we're currently in, revenue and earnings tripled since 2020, and I see no reason why they can't triple again in a similar time frame. And PIF rates this company as a buy. In the last week, rather, this company is up close to 11%. Just since yesterday, it's up 13-14%. The next stock on our list is Eli Lilly, and it's had all-you-can-eat demand for its weight loss drug, pun intended, or drugs, I should say. Now it has many different medications for weight loss. It appears that people are just going to lose any amount of discipline if they're not medicated. At least the person of the future will not really know discipline like perhaps we or our fathers or forefathers knew before us. Everything is medically treated nowadays, but their gross margins are basically, they're almost printing money with some of these medications. So gross margins of 82%. They have in the last quarter increased their R&D 28%. So they're actually, not being complacent with regards to the products that they currently offer. They're aggressively expanding their product pipeline. They got key regulatory approval for new products, and they're repurchasing shares, which I think is fantastic. You want to buy something when the seller is a customer of that thing that they're buying. And so when, as an investor in stocks, when the company issuing those stocks is buying them, that's encouraging as an investor. And we rate this company at its current price as a buy. You can see the appreciation in the last year, which is quite uncommon for a company the size of Eli Lilly and a company that is paying dividends. We have this in our PIF dividend portfolio. It's performing quite well for us, alhamdulillah. The next piece of big news today was MicroStrategy. In their earnings call, Michael Saylor was mentioning that MicroStrategy was going to become the first Bitcoin development company. And this is significant, I think, because MicroStrategy is not a trivial company, and they have significant expertise in software development. So I think they are well positioned to be developing software and applications for Bitcoin that make the Bitcoin network more useful and user accessible, user friendly than it's ever been. And perhaps related to this announcement, perhaps not, but Bitcoin for the first time, basically since the dip, the sell the news event that happened immediately after the approval of Bitcoin ETFs, Bitcoin for the first time actually broke the $44,000 mark after we've been just chopping away for the last month and a week, basically. So all of these, all of this appreciation in these high quality assets has happened at a time when the probability of a March interest rate cut is still low. So it's not like the market now thinks that the probability of a rate cut is higher than it did, yesterday. But the appreciation is happening because of the fundamentals and the strong earnings that these assets are experiencing. And so I think that there is an additional catalyst on the way, which is more clarity around when an interest rate cut could happen, when the first cut could happen. I think that's going to be a major catalyst for markets, not when it happens, but just clarity about when we think it is going to happen. So as you can see from the slide, the probability, or the market is pricing in a probability of a cut in March at only 18%. For May, the probability is greater than 50%, but for March, it's still under 20%. So that's bullish considering this major catalyst has yet to materialize. So with that, I hope you found this beneficial. Definitely leave a like and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Become a PIF member to follow our PIF portfolios. And Wilson, nice to see you again. Assalamu alaikum, brother. What are your thoughts on gig companies like Uber, DoorDash, and Instacart? So I actually had this video that I did a couple of years ago, I think, where initially I was comfortable with it, but then I wasn't comfortable with it. So I think the main thing here is that you have to take into account that these companies will deliver things that you're not comfortable with. So, pork or alcohol, many of these companies deliver such things. And initially I was like, okay, we're not necessarily responsible for that. It's a platform. You can use it for whatever. But I think my wife was asking me about it, and she was kind of like, not interrogating, but like trying to drill down into my thinking. And while I was kind of explaining myself, I was like, maybe I'm not comfortable. Maybe I'm not fully comfortable. So I've just stayed away, basically. Any thoughts on Caspa? I think we're going to look into Caspa, inshallah, and other similar projects. Rashad, I wish the Fed will share your bright economic expectations. I actually think the Fed thinks that there will be, or at least is not concerned with the prospects of a hard landing right now, or else they would have communicated a more dovish stance on the interest rate cuts. So I think the Fed is actually seeing the data and saying, oh, well, we kind of have time here. We're in no hurry to cut rates because the economy seems to be holding up. So I think the data actually supports not a bleak economic outlook. Quick word on miners not showing strength. So actually they did show strength. I mean, maybe they're not up 10, 20%, not all of them. But if you look at Actually, one of our miners is up 10%. If you look at CleanSpark, for example, it's up 8.5%. Iris is up 8.5%. I don't know which miners you're talking about. Mawson is up more than 10%. So yeah, I think miners are showing strength. And maybe perhaps some miners are lagging behind. Sometimes there's a delay, but if you know that the miner you're invested in is, from a balance sheet perspective, it's sound. I think eventually they will follow Bitcoin. Jazakallah khair for doing the research. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Since the majority of Islamic ETFs got Israeli supporters, who on earth are you going to invest? Oh, well, I'm not sure what you mean by that. But what I do is I pick individual stocks, as you've noticed. So, yeah, I'm not necessarily too invested in what other Islamic ETFs do. All right, guys, I hope you found it beneficial. If you did, do me a favor and leave a like. I'd really appreciate that. Become a member if you'd like to follow our portfolios. And until next time, take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum and peace be upon you all.